Welcome to Radical Personal Finance, a show dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, skills, insight, and encouragement you need to live a rich and meaningful life now while building a plan for financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Joshua Sheets. I'm your host. And on today's podcast, I want to discuss with you a theme that I find myself returning to more and more frequently, especially as I get older. I have reached the point in my life in which I and many of my friends look around and we ask ourselves this question: am I on track for my goals? When I was younger, I was filled with optimism that, of course, I was going to hit all of my goals, and of course, I was going to hit all of them early. And then, unfortunately, as time goes by, things happen, and you wind up looking around and saying to yourself, am I really going to make it? And as a financial advisor, I often find myself talking to other people who are looking around and saying, I'm not going to make it. I'm behind. I'm dramatically behind. And what happens is, unfortunately, when people are in this situation, they often wind up starting to do stupid things. They wind up taking unnecessary risks. They start taking foolhardy ventures on, basically trying to get rich quick. You would think that when somebody reaches middle age that he would have accumulated enough wisdom to avoid those kinds of schemes. And yet, in my experience and in my observations, there are many people who, due to this sense of pressure, feel like I have to get rich quick now because I'm behind where I wanted to be. And in today's podcast, I want to tell you, you're going to be fine. You can still get rich. You can still be secure in retirement, starting from wherever you are, whenever you do that. I'm going to demonstrate that to you with numbers. I'm going to show you the actual numbers so that you don't do something stupid and foolish at this point in your life. That's what's coming up in today's podcast. Quick, before we get started, though, I want to tell you about my next speaking engagement, which is Nomad Capitalist Live. Nomad Capitalist Live is the world's premier event for international planning and offshoring, gathers together some of the world's great global citizens, entrepreneurs, investors. This year, the event will be September 17 through the 20th. Again, September 17 through the 20th in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I will be there speaking. I think I've got an opening keynote on the first night, which I'm pretty excited about. I will also be sharing the stage with some well-known people like Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple. The former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, will be speaking, as well as a couple dozen other interesting speakers that you can find listed at nomadcapitalist.com/live. Tickets are now on sale. I think there's about a week or two before the first price increase. So if you would like to attend Nomad Capitalist Live, you'd like to come and see me, hang out, see me speak and many others and hang out there, please go today and get your tickets at nomadcapitalist.com/live. nomadcapitalist.com/live. If you're interested in learning from real experts on how to set up a complete offshoring plan or just a small backup plan B, this is the place to go. nomadcapitalist.com/live. Now, let's talk about what is necessary for you to actually build if you are going to actually achieve your goals with regard to your financial plans. The most important thing is to recognize how the numbers work out and recognize that, as I said, it is not too late. The first question, however, is why am I behind? Why am I behind where I have otherwise wanted to be? And the answer to that question will usually fall into a couple different categories. First and foremost, a big reason you may be behind is due to career insecurity or instability. Many people reach their middle age years and they have not actually put in place a good, solid career. They kind of started with one thing, they burned out from that thing, started something else, or jumped from shiny thing to shiny thing. Any number of reasons that this can be the case. I'm not criticizing. What I'm saying, though, is that most of the time when people are settled into a good, productive, reasonably earning career, they tend to build wealth. And most of the time, people who don't build wealth, if we go back and we look at the reasons that that person hasn't built wealth, we can often see that one of the reasons that for the lack of wealth building is simply due to instability with regard to a career. So if that's the case, then this is your first priority. Your first job and your first priority to secure your financial future for your older age is to do everything you can to stabilize your career at this point, to get yourself in a position where you have a good job, a steady job, and you can earn steady money. Now, the good thing is there's many different ways to do that. The bad thing is that in today's world, there's many different ways to do that. And unfortunately, because of the many different ways you could earn an income, a lot of times it's tempting to look around and say, well, I just don't know what to do because I'm not sure what's going to make me happy. If you're reaching a point in time in which you're actually thinking about financial security, though, it's time to start diminishing the emphasis you put on what's going to make me happy and focus on what's going to make me stable, what's going to make me wealthy. I'm not saying that it's not nice to pursue a job that you like or a career that you're going to engage with. Of course it is. What I'm saying, though, is that poverty is worse. Poverty is worse than having a job that you don't like. And if you've gone 20 or 30 or 40 years in the marketplace and you haven't built any wealth now, I got to imagine you would start to agree with me. Poverty sucks. And a good way to avoid poverty is to earn money. And if you can earn money in a way that you like and that you enjoy and that you're really enthusiastic about, cool, go for it. I think that's better than the alternative. But if you just need to work and earn money doing something that you're not super enthusiastic about, then do that because that's better than poverty. So figure out a job that's available to you, a career that's in front of you, something that you could do and really engage with it. Work really hard to get into it. If you need to take training, if you need to take courses, do whatever's necessary to get into it. Work really hard to get into it and then work really hard to stay in it and to advance in it because it's very difficult for you to make the kind of progress that you should be making if you don't have an income, if you don't have a good income. You have to fix that first. Recognize that if you have a good income or you don't have a good income, time's going to pass either way. So let's go ahead and just get serious now. Let's choose a job or a career that you can do, train for it, get hired, and stick with it for a long time. Now, if you're, say, 40 years old and you need 5 years to transition to a new career, do it. Hopefully it shouldn't take that long. But what I'm saying is that sometimes people reach a point in time and they say, well, I'm too old to go and pursue something. You're not too old. You can go to law school at 45. You can go become a physician at 50. You can go and become a coding or an engineer at 55. All of these things are possible. But certainly the sooner and faster you get into it, the better. So the time's going to pass, so go in the direction that you think is going to give you a good job or a good career. But do it because you have to have an income if you're going to be able to make progress. The next thing that is necessary is you need to be able to save money by keeping your expenses low, lower than your income. Another big reason that people arrive at middle age and experience financial instability has to do with having had high having had high expenses. These expenses are often due to things that may be totally out of your control. For example, you may have had various children. You may have had expenses caring for a sibling with special needs or parents who are not doing well and who are indigent. There's a time in life in which expenses are very high, and that time in life tends to be from the time you're about 30 to the time you're about 50. The good news is, however, that if you're middle-aged, then your expenses should naturally be starting to decrease. Most of the time, you reach those middle-aged years, and your obligations, your financial obligations to your children start to decline. Normally, the latest time that people will have children will be about 40 years old or early 40s. So that means that by the time you arrive at about 55, you could expect to have a 15-year-old. If you had children younger, then you may hit that age sooner. And so your required child expenses, the requirements that you have to provide for your children are going down. As you launch your children out into the world, the amount of money that you have to spend for them is going down. Now, sometimes people say, oh, it's not going down because I still have to pay for $100,000 for college. If you have the money and you can afford to pay for college, certainly go for it. Pay for college. However, if you are behind on retirement savings, you must not pay for your children's education. You cannot borrow for retirement. Your children can borrow easily for school. You cannot get much of a discount on retirement. Your children, there's dozens of ways I can give your children to go to school. Any kind of person who should be in college can easily work his way through college, working at a minimum wage job part-time, covering his living expenses and his college expenses. It's totally doable. It may take him 5 years to get through, it may take him 6 years, but that's a perfectly reasonable plan. So if you're behind on saving for your own financial security, you need to start talking to your children early and say, your upper level education expenses are on you. So you have to make a plan to pay for those expenses yourself based upon your own income. I can't pay for them for you. Now, outside of that, you want to keep your living expenses low. So if you're behind on financial security, don't try to go out and keep up with all your friends in appearances and consumption who have a lot more money than you. Just because some of your friends have enormous houses doesn't mean that you need an enormous house. Live in a modest house. Drive modest cars. Keep your expenses quite modest. That will allow you to actually save money. This can be psychologically quite frustrating because if you feel like I should be ahead, I should be where my rich friend is, then it can just be tempting to try to really focus on keeping up with the Joneses at this stage of life. That is a recipe for insecurity and poverty. And the Joneses don't care about you. They don't know what you do. They don't even know who you are. They don't care. You're going to have a lot better life if you have financial security and peace than you will if you go out and try to consume beyond your ability. So the good news is it's usually doable for you to keep your expenses low because your children are grown and gone, and then you can downsize other expenses. There's all kinds of creative ways you can do this. I follow a lot of the trends where retirees are doing things like living in hotels full time instead of living in houses. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but I think most people are not suited to those kinds of weird lifestyles. I'm not advocating for a weird lifestyle. What I'm advocating for is that you move into a modest home or a modest apartment so you can keep your expenses down, launch your children so that they're on their own, and then that will allow you to save money. And then the great news is that even if at this stage of life, even if your income is somewhat modest, because of your age and because of the kinds of things that you're likely well suited to, you likely will still control quite a lot of money. Imagine that your earnings are $80,000 and that you are age 40 or age 45. Well, if you can earn $80,000 per year for 25 years, that would be a total of $2 million that you will earn. $2 million. Let's assume that you need to buy and pay for a modest house during that period. Not sure what a modest house would be in your area. You could find a condo for $100,000, $150,000. You might find a modest house for $200,000 or $300,000, depending on where you live. $2 million, take out, say, $250,000 for a modest house. That leaves you with $1,750,000 available. Now, you have to cover your living expenses, of course, and save money. My point is that even if you had a modest $80,000 a year income, over the course of 25 years, that would be $2 million. So you're still going to earn quite a lot of money. If you're earning $100,000 a year, for every decade, you've got $1 million of earnings. So you still control quite a lot of money. Now, financially, I want you to have one goal and one goal only, and that is this. I want you to max your retirement accounts. Max your retirement accounts. The math works out on this beautifully, based on the way that retirement accounts are designed. If you can just max out your retirement accounts, especially your things like a 401k or a 403b, then in the fullness of time, you're going to be just fine. When I say max, what I mean is I want you to put aside the maximum amount that the law allows for that retirement account for this particular calendar year. So, for example, at the time of recording of this podcast, the max for a 401k for an employee contribution is $23,500 per year. Well, imagine if you're age 40. If you could put away $23,500 per year for 25 years at 7%, then at the age of 65, you would have $1,600,000 in that retirement account. $1,600,000. You're going to be wealthy. You're just fine. You are financially secure in that scenario. Let's say that you don't get started at age 40, but you get started at age 50. Well, at age 50, you start to gain access in the United States to the catch-up contributions. So at age 50, you can put in the $23,500 plus an additional $7,500 per year catch-up contribution. That would allow you to save $31,000 per year. $31,000 per year for 20 years from age 50 to age 70 at 7% would be $1,355,000. You're going to be just fine in that scenario as long as you max that retirement account. So I want you to look and set this as a clear goal. Let's say even at age 60, let's say you don't get started saving until age 60. Well, at age 60, if you can max out a 401k at $31,000 per year, then you earn 7%, and you do that for 10 years from age 60 to age 70, you would accumulate $452,000, almost $500,000. $500,000 isn't enough for you to retire in luxury, but it's absolutely enough when added to other programs like Social Security or maybe some other pension that you might have access to. It's absolutely enough to keep you out of the poorhouse. It's absolutely enough to get you started. Now, that's assuming only one person. Many people in this scenario are married, and so you can max out 2 401ks and set aside $62,000 a year. I assume just simply a 401k. But what if you can do a 401k and a Roth IRA? If you can max a 401k and an IRA or a 401k and a Roth IRA, you have even more. If you can max a 401k for both spouses, you can have millions, even if you're starting late. So the point is that as long as you will be focused and industrious and do the things you need to do, even if you're starting at 50 or 55 years old, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be able to have enough money to be financially secure in your older age. Now, you're obviously going to have to adjust your work and life expectations based upon your real situation in life. If you're starting to save for retirement at age 60, you're not going to retire at 65. You're probably going to retire at 75 or 80. But that's okay. I'm not going to argue the point here, but I think you're better off working than you are being retired at any age. However, my point is that you should be building financial security. And so if you're getting started at 60, that's okay. You're just going to make a different plan than if you're getting started at 40. The key is that these steps still work the same at every age. Secure your income. Make sure you have a good, solid income doing something that hopefully you'll be able to do for a good long time. Keep your expenses modest compared to your income. You say, Joshua, that's ridiculous for me to save $31,000 a year if I'm making $80,000 a year. It's not ridiculous. It's absolutely doable for you if it's a priority. You will do what is a priority for you. Those 401k contributions will come out pre-tax. You just automatically pull them out and then make a plan to live on the balance and do what is necessary so that you're able to live on the balance. You might be living with one of your children. You might need to move into a more modest place. You might need to pursue some kind of really unusual lifestyle. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of different ways that you can do it if it's important to you. I'm trying to give you the one goal that matters, which is max your 401k, max your retirement accounts. And then you're going to have to adjust your overall life expectations. So if you're going to be working longer, then build a plan where that work is something that you're going to be able to do. If you want to travel all the time and yet you don't have the budget for constant international travel, no problem. You can still travel. You're just going to be car camping in an area within a few hours of your home or something like that. I'm not being unreasonable. I'm not engaging in pie in the sky thinking, nor do I think you should do that either. I want you to have a sober conversation with yourself and with your spouse and recognize, all right, I'm behind. That's okay. Just because I'm behind where I'd like to be doesn't mean I have to do something stupid or crazy. All I need to do is fix these basic things. Number 1, fix my income. Number 2, fix my expenses. Number 3, max out my retirement accounts. If you will just do those 3 things, I promise you in the fullness of time, you need a decade, right? At least a decade. 2 is better, but at least a decade, you're going to be financially secure and you'll be really grateful for those steps that you took. Take action on these things and recognize no matter when you're starting, no matter how old you are, if you'll just take these simple steps, you'll be just fine.